I said before the fight that it would be very difficult for Oleksandr Usyk to get a decision from the judges in a close nip and tuck fight, which was the kind of fight I was expecting. I thought it would be very, very cagey, much more cagey than this. I thought there would be a lot of nip and tuck rounds that were open to interpretation. If Usyk did win a round, it would only be by a punch or two extra than Joshua. And in some of those rounds, the judges would find an excuse to give it to AJ. I said that the only way I can really see Usyk winning this on the cards is if he goes out there and batters AJ and makes it completely decisive. And well, that's exactly what Oleksandr Usyk decided to do. This fight was an absolute rout. Oleksandr Usyk came out from the opening bell and he was landing his left hand virtually at will. AJ was confused. He was befuddled. He couldn't get to grips with the movement and the speed, the head movement, the lateral movement, the angles, the punch picking, the reflexes. He was totally bewildered from early. And he was even hurt in this fight. Usyk managed to catch him with a big left hand on the chin. AJ's legs were all over the place. He managed to recover. Usyk isn't really that kind of finisher. So AJ managed to recover. He went on. But Usyk was the boss and he got stronger as the fight wore on. You see, oftentimes people assume that the smaller, lighter guy is going to be more effective early, but as the fight wears on, the bigger guy is going to start to dominate. Well, there was a little bit of that as Usyk started to slow and AJ found a little bit of timing, but the last few rounds were all Usyk, and the 12th round was Usyk so big, it looked like he might even get a stoppage. So what a fantastic performance by Oleksandr Usyk, defeating Anthony Joshua in a 12-round unanimous decision. And by the way, the judges tried everything there, right? There was one judge, I think the Ukrainian judge, had it scored right. The other two judges, I think one of them only had it for Usyk by 2 rounds. Was it Howard Foster? I forget which one it was now, but they were trying it, even giving it that close. This was not a 2-round margin fight. Usyk won it by a huge amount. Come on. So they were trying it, but Usyk didn't allow them to, rob him because it was so decisive. It was one-sided. Let's be real. Don't get it twisted. AJ came out and tried to swing a few shots in a few rounds to go against the tide, but it wasn't enough. He didn't have the skill. He was lost in there. Lost. And this just shows how utterly clueless so many people are about boxing when they're saying things like AJ's going to blow Usyk out. It's an easy fight. It will just be like Kubrat Pulev. I've been saying for the longest, you guys know this, for the longest, that out of Usyk and Michael Hunter, between the two of them, they're going to pull off at least one major upset in the heavyweight division. How long have I been saying this for? I've been saying it for the longest, time and time and time again, because I understand that it's not all about power. If you've got the kind of speed that Usyk and Hunter, and even though Hunter didn't fight Hrgovic, and I'm not happy about it, you're not happy about it, don't write him off either, I'm telling you. These little guys with this foot movement, when they get in there with a big guy who's used to fighting other big guys, it's very difficult for the big man. I said, go back and look at the Olympics when AJ fought Savon, Erislandi Savon. See how much trouble AJ had with Savon then? And people say, well, AJ's improved since then. Yeah, he has improved since then, but he's never fought a mover like Savon till now, till the Usyk fight. See, that's the difference. And by the way, if you think this is over, if you think these little guys are not going to turn over more big guys and it just stops with Usyk, think again. It's going to happen again. It's so obviously going to happen again, folks. Tyson Fury hasn't fought one of these little movers before in a long time, right? Not since Steve Cunningham. And Tyson Fury himself said that Cunningham was the toughest fight in his career. So all these people getting gassed on the size of these heavyweights with muscles and punching power and knockouts, you don't know what you're looking at. Yeah? The little guys with the extra skill and the movement and the hand-eye coordination that the bigger guys don't have. You see, this is why Tyson Fury didn't try to box with Steve Cunningham after the first couple rounds. In the first round, Tyson Fury experienced something similar to what AJ experienced in the first round against Usyk. The little guy constantly moving, and it just threw off his hand-eye coordination. It threw off his range. He's not used to somebody moving like that. And Usyk is the best of the best when it comes to that kind of movement in the weight class. You see? And you're not going to get somebody in for sparring that's going to be able to replicate what Usyk does to that level. And that was the problem. And well, there are so many problems. I've said before, and I think it's pretty undeniable now, that AJ's chinny. I'm not saying he's got the worst heavyweight chin I've ever seen, but he's chinny. Let's not try to pretend otherwise at this point, okay? He's chinny. He also is very upright and stiff. Still now, I've been saying since long before AJ lost to Andy Ruiz that he needs to get rid of Rob McCracken. He has Rob McCracken's style ingrained in him. I mean, it's just Rob McCracken all over. His upright stance, both hands, it's too stiff and robotic. He needs to get shot of McCracken if he's ever going to regain the title and go on to have the kind of title run that people have been predicting that he would have. Saying, oh yeah, he's now going to go on and dominate the division and knock everybody out. Well, if he's going to do that, Klitschko style, got to get rid of McCracken once and for all. And this is why I say these things about fighters. Not because I hate Rob McCracken or anything like that, but because I can see in the fighter that they're not making the kind of progression that they should be making. They're being held back by the trainer. And this is also why I've always said there's no place for loyalty in a sport like boxing when it comes to fighters being loyal to trainers, managers, promoters, all this kind of stuff. No place for that. You've got a very small window of opportunity within which to make life-changing sums of money and achieve as much as you can as a boxer before your prime ends and you fade away. So you've got to get it right during those crucial years. You can't be getting all sentimental about a trainer who was with you in the Olympics. Nah, bro. You've got to get the guy that's going to be able to bring the best out of you and elevate your game to the next level, teach you different techniques, not the same old stiff, upright, robotic style. It's no good, particularly not against the guy as fast and fluid as Usyk. So, fantastic performance by Oleksandr Usyk. Outperformed even what I expected. I expected him to be very competitive. Said that all along. I expected a tight fight, possibly controversial on the cards for AJ. But Usyk was like, nah, we're not having a close fight here. I'm going to school this guy. I'm going to batter this guy. And if I get the opportunity, I'm going to go in there and try and knock him out. And that's what Usyk did. And I can't give the guy enough praise for what he has done here tonight. Now, anybody who tries to say, AJ wasn't the same, there was something wrong with him, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know boxing. There's somebody saying, oh, well, AJ wasn't throwing his big punches. That's because he was getting countered. That's because Usyk was making him miss and making him pay. Once a guy is making you miss and making you pay, that's when you start getting hesitant to throw. That's when you're not committing to your punches because you can't set yourself. For one, because of the movement, right? So Usyk offset AJ's power with movement. You have to be able to set yourself. Usyk was moving so much that AJ was unable to set himself. He was moving left and right. His head was constantly moving. Usyk did to AJ what Lomachenko does to most fighters, other than, Teofimo Lopez and Orlando Salido. Everybody else, this is what Lomachenko does to them. He tires them mentally with the constant movement. They can't focus. The target literally never stands still. And not only does the target never stand still, but he's throwing punches back at you. Punches that are hurting you. Okay, so you don't know what to do. You get confused. That's what happened to AJ. It's nothing to do with, oh, he's off the juice or he's not as strong or there was something. No, there was nothing wrong. This was the exact same AJ who fought Ruiz in the rematch. The exact same AJ who fought Pulev. The difference was that Usyk is much better than Ruiz in the rematch or Pulev. Much better. Much more skilled. Much more experienced in terms of, elite level boxing. And that's what it was. So there's no searching around because you can't quite comprehend what happened. Oh, there was something wrong with AJ. No, there's nothing wrong with AJ. It's just something wrong with your understanding of boxing. Yeah? When a guy is that much quicker on his feet than you, as Usyk was over AJ, and he knows how to box like that, and he's never staying still, these big guys can't focus. Like I already said earlier, that's why Tyson Fury dispensed with the boxing against Cunningham. He figured out you watch that first round when Fury's fighting Cunningham. He starts beating his chest and telling Cunningham to come to him. Fury understood early that this guy was too quick on his feet for him. He understood that early. That's why he was trying to intimidate him and come to me. Don't try and box me. And then when he got dropped, Fury was like, okay, forget about trying to box this guy. He's too fast. I need to go for him. And AJ could have tried something similar here. Just put your hands up and go for it. But Usyk is a lot fresher than Steve Cunningham was when Tyson Fury fought Steve Cunningham. And I mean, AJ is definitely not as durable as Tyson Fury. So perhaps he just didn't feel like he could take that kind of risk. Tyson Fury, a more durable guy, better chin, better powers of recovery. And he was happy to go in there and, well, I say happy. He was willing to go in there and just walk down Steve Cunningham and make it a big man fight. AJ never made it a big man fight. He continued boxing with Usyk because that's AJ's mentality. Truth be told. Yeah? Particularly after that first Ruiz fight where he got plastered all over the ring. That's AJ's mentality. He doesn't like getting physical anymore. Still got the residual effects of that Ruiz first fight in his subconscious, maybe even in his conscious mind. He would have been having flashbacks when Oleksandr Usyk hurt him there from that first Ruiz fight. So yeah, fantastic from Oleksandr Usyk. Amazing victory. And it was, for me, it was inevitable that either Usyk or Hunter was going to pull off at least one of these big upsets against the biggie. Inevitable. Because people were so gassed by the size of the heavyweights and the power. Oh, he's too small, these cruiserweights. What? Have you never heard of Evander Holyfield? People got short men. What, you never heard of Holyfield, huh? You never heard of Michael Spinks coming up from light heavyweight beating Larry Holmes? No, ring no bells? Come on, people. Little guys have been coming up and beating big guys for decades and decades. But somehow people think, oh no, that can't happen today. Of course it can happen today. Usyk and guys his size, 220, 6'3", that's plenty big enough to compete with the likes of AJ and Wilder and Fury and all. Plenty big enough if they're skilled enough. And Usyk obviously is skilled enough. And I'm telling you, don't sleep on that Michael Hunter guy. Even though he backed out of that Hrgovic fight, don't sleep on him. See, upsets happen because people start getting complacent. Not just the fighters, the fans. They contribute to it. Acting like they are so dismissive of the cruiserweights who move up. Too small, can't punch. Punching power is not everything, folks. And see, whenever I say styles make fights, isn't this a perfect example? Derek Chisora did better against Oleksandr Usyk than Anthony Joshua did. How about that? Does that mean Derek Chisora is better than AJ? No, it doesn't. It means styles make fights. AJ doesn't have the style of Derek Chisora where you apply relentless pressure and you never let the slick southpaw Usyk rest. That's not AJ's style. That's what I said after the Chisora fight. Go back and listen to what I said in my post-fight. I said, hey, AJ don't fight like Chisora. He doesn't apply that kind of pressure. He doesn't come in low like that. It's a totally different style. I don't know why people are writing off Usyk because of what happened in the Chisora fight. AJ's not Chisora. So please learn a lesson from this. I've learned my lessons throughout the years in boxing. Yeah. When Roy Jones came down from heavyweight, I thought this guy's invincible. He just beat John Ruiz for the heavyweight title. There's no way that Antonio Tarver can beat him. Tarver obviously lost a close decision in the first fight. Then he knocked Jones out in the second fight. I was stunned. My boxing world was turned upside down. I didn't think that could happen. Same thing when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. Mind blown. Same thing when Mike Tyson lost to Holyfield. My mind was blown. I thought Tyson was going to walk through Holyfield. I thought Holyfield was too old. I thought he was too small. Even though he weighed the same as Tyson, he's not a natural heavyweight. He's coming up through the weights. And he looked shop-worn compared to Tyson. I was like, Holyfield's going to get brushed in a couple rounds here. My world was turned upside down. Okay, so I've learned lessons so many times for experience watching this sport over the decades. And one of the things I've learned is that these smaller guys moving up against much bigger men are to be underestimated at your peril. At your peril. Go and look at AJ. I told you this before. Go and look at AJ against Savon. When has AJ fought somebody that moves like that since? This was the first time since. It was something different because he hadn't fought a mover like that since. Same goes for Tyson Fury. I want to see him against the mover even more now. After seeing what Usyk did. I'm not expecting Fury to go out the way AJ did. Okay, because Fury is a bit more savvy. He's tougher. Doesn't punch like AJ. But he's also seen what happened to AJ here, and he's going to be more on his guard against the little guy. And also, he's shown that he can deal with a little guy and turn big man, like he did against Cunningham. He didn't let the fight get away from him. He took the fight by the scruff of the neck and said, nah, I'm not letting you fight no little man fight, moving around, making me look silly, making me look clumsy. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to jump on you. AJ didn't do that against Usyk. And he was scared to do it. Truth be told, he was scared to do it because he was getting pinged. He was getting hurt. I'm sure Usyk hit him harder than he expected to be hit by Usyk. And just a fantastic performance. Now, there is a rematch clause in the contract, of course. Unfortunately, I wish that Usyk hadn't signed that rematch clause so he could just, sail off into the sunset and fight some other people, unify with the winner of Wilder Fury 3. That would be better. Unfortunately, if AJ decides to trigger the rematch clause, we'll get bogged down in AJ Usyk 2. However, when I spoke to G-Man, obviously you guys all heard it. G-Man didn't seem convinced that if AJ gets battered, he'd want an immediate rematch with Usyk. And I think G-Man might turn out to be right. I think he might turn out to be right because this was a different kind of loss. Just like G-Man said, different kind of loss. This wasn't a loss where he just made one mistake and that cost him the fight like against Ruiz. Yeah, where he got hurt in a fight he was on course to do well in, right? He dropped Ruiz and obviously had been hitting him with big power shots in the previous rounds and he just got overzealous, went in for the finish, got clipped and never really recovered for the rest of the fight. This loss to Usyk is not like that because he got schooled from start to finish. It wasn't like one mistake that he made. He just got completely outclassed. He got outclassed. He got outclassed. And I don't want to hear no excuses. I don't want to hear nothing about AJ's not the same and he's because he's lost the weight. No, give Usyk the credit. He's the better boxer. He stepped his level up. He was better than he was against Witherspoon and Chisora because he knew he had to be. He had those levels in him because he's vastly experienced. 300 or 400 amateur fights, WSB, fought big guys for years, sparred with the Klitschko's and all these people. That's why AJ got battered like that. Nothing to do with he's not the same because of the weight loss or none of that. He just came up against the guy that was more skillful than the guys he's used to fighting. And so, like I say, G-Man might be right when he says that AJ won't fancy the rematch there. The way he got schooled, I mean, what do you do with that? That's what you really need to rebuild from. It's not like coming back against Andy Ruiz, who's, got fast hands, good chin, and he can punch a bit, but he's extremely slow-footed. His defense is poor. There's no head movement there from Andy Ruiz. So a guy with the dimensions of AJ, as long as he can maintain the stamina for 12 rounds, he should be able to beat a guy like Ruiz, right? He's got the boxing skills enough to just stay outside against a plodder like that. But against an Usyk who schooled him from start to finish, what does he do? Up close, he wasn't the boss. At distance, he wasn't the boss. When he tried to lead, he wasn't the boss. When he tried to counter, he wasn't the boss. When he tried to jab, he wasn't the boss. What do you do? This is where you really need to rebuild from scratch, and you have to get rid. I've been saying it for you. You gotta get rid of Rob McCracken. There's too much emotionalism with so many boxing fans where they get caught up in personalities. And, but Rob's been with him from the start. What are you talking about? Rob teaches the Olympic. All that stuff is air. Yeah. The cold, hard facts are Rob McCracken cannot take AJ to the next level stylistically and skill-wise. He can't. He should have got rid of this guy years ago. Yeah? And get with a trainer who's much more experienced with professional heavyweights. And that's that. And, anyway, let me know what you guys think about this fight in the comments below. Is it what you expected? Where do you think AJ goes from here? Will he take the rematch? I hope he doesn't. For two reasons. One, because I want to see Undisputed ASAP. Two, because I think it would be the wrong idea. I think it would be the wrong decision. I said after the Ruiz fight that I don't think AJ should step straight back in against Ruiz. Because even though he has the ability to beat Ruiz in the rematch, he's going to be fighting at elite level then, and he hasn't sorted out all the problems that he's going to need to sort out to beat all the guys in the division. He just hasn't sorted them out. And when you're throwing him back at elite level, you're straight back in the fire. He's not allowed to have any learning fights at that level, basically. And AJ is suffering now because of the fact that he's been rushed and he hasn't had the right training setup, the right people to teach him the right things. And obviously he has limitations too. AJ's never, in my mind, and what I've been saying for years, is that there isn't going to be any monolithic heavyweight champion in this era. There isn't going to be one. It's going to be a round robin. It's going to be guys getting, knocked off, losing, coming back, winning. That's what it's going to be. So, and here we go again. And don't expect it to stop. It's going to continue with more round robin stuff and upsets. It's got a business. It's great. Great time for heavyweight boxing. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. And to finish off, it was a much more exciting fight than I anticipated. The one thing which really surprised me about this fight is how many clean punches were landed, how often AJ was hurt, and I just expected a more cagey fight. A nip and tuck where the judges could give AJ this and give AJ that, and people are like, oh, come on, man, Usyk won that fight. I thought it'd be like that. I didn't expect Usyk to just dominate to this extent, and fantastic stuff. So yeah, give me your thoughts below. Where does AJ go? What does Usyk do? How would you guys assess Usyk's chances against the Fury Wilder winner? Either one of those guys. Let me know in the comments below. And just like I've learned over the years, not to underestimate little guys. This will be a lesson for all you out there. Yeah? Just like I had to learn my lesson decades ago, right? With Holyfield smashing Tyson to pieces. With Holyfield coming back and beating Bo in the rematch. A much bigger man. Just like I had to learn my lesson, you guys who thought AJ was going to just run through Usyk and thought that Usyk was too small for a heavyweight, you guys are learning your lesson now. Same way I learned my lesson back in the 90s with regards to underestimating little guys. Yeah, don't get gassed by the size of heavyweights and punching power and all that, man. It's overrated. If you got a guy who's got skill and a heart, the difference in hand-eye coordination and reflexes between a guy like Usyk and a guy like AJ is much bigger than you realize, you see, and you don't notice that when you look at a guy on the bag or when you look at a big man against another big man. You notice it when you see a big man against a little man. When you see the big man against it, then oh wow, this little man, the big man's struggling to find the target here. Yes, just like Fury against Cunningham struggling to find the target because he's not used to that kind of foot speed, the in and out movement. You see, boxing is a game, a sport, right, of tiny margins of error. So the difference between landing a shot and missing a shot or slipping a shot and getting hit by a shot is very small, yeah? And the size of an opponent can make the difference. When a guy's smaller than you're used to, quicker than you're used to, that split second faster at moving away, at moving his head, all of a sudden the shots that you normally land with, the shots you can normally rely on are missing. And you're getting pinged back with surprising counters that are hurting you. Makes all the difference. You see, particularly at the elite level, the margins of error are so small. So anyway, congratulations to Oleksandr Usyk, unified world heavyweight champion. And, for AJ, on a personal level, I feel like there was some karma here for promoting the postman's knock and Oleksandr Usyk not going down that road like most celebrities have. Usyk hasn't, and I salute him for that. So personally, I don't really believe in karma like that, but if karma really is a thing, maybe that was karma for AJ, promoting all that nonsense. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and there will surely be more uploads from me about this fight because there's so much analysis to do, and I need to get a collaboration with all these guys at the same time. G-Man, Chris Andre, Outmatch Boxing, Boxing on the Edge, all my guys together, and we're going to talk about this fight because there is so much to break down. All right? You guys be good. Catch you on the next one. Come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide range of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&A sessions, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got a Discord server where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. There's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.